In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza, come and get it all, the Regina Automobile Dealers Association, and Kings Park Speedway, we're kicking asphalt.
Good evening once again, and welcome to the show that puts you in the driver's seat. It's In Gear right here on Channel 7. Hi, I'm Garth Stone, and once again, we've got another great show for you. Let me start out by saying thank you to everybody who has been calling the show on a regular basis. We've been getting a lot of emails. We certainly do appreciate all of your input, and we've had a lot of people requesting special vehicles be driven on test drive, and we're going to try and get those vehicles on as the weeks and the months progress. Tonight, we continue our look at minivans on test drive. We're going to be taking a ride in a Chevrolet Venture. Beautiful, beautiful minivan. I think you're going to like that one as well. Plus, the Racer's Edge with Paul Leitenauer coming up tonight. And Barry Davies, well, where is he going to be? You just never know with Barry's Automotive Adventures. Barry's going to take us out on a wonderful adventure tonight, I'm sure. But let's start by getting into things and welcoming our very special guests and our new team member to the show. First off, Doug Kosier from Ziebart 3M Trimline. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thanks, Garth.
And Joey Hattersbeck is with us once again. Joey, welcome back.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's been a very busy week for all of us. I know that you've been out doing some filming for future Racers Edge segments. Barry Davies has been all over the province. He and Randy, they've been going out filming this and filming that. I love the Barry's Automotive Adventures. I love seeing where Barry goes.
Yeah, Barry has a lot of interesting little places that he finds out there, and he's going to share a lot of them with us. So looking forward to some of those coming up.
One of those interesting places is coming up tonight, and once again, people are going to be very, very surprised about where Barry is going to be. We also do want to let you know as well, once again, Boston Pizza. We are going to be out at Boston Pizza starting about half an hour after the show ends tonight. Tonight's location is 4657 Ray Street. That's right across the street from the Southland Mall. You want to talk cars? Why don't you come on out and join us? Boston Pizza. Once again, we'll be out there about half an hour after the show's end. And of course, as always, we are going to be taking your calls and your questions on the show a little bit later on. And of course, your emails. If you have any questions or comments about In Gear, or if you have any questions or comments about the show in general or specific requests for the show, you can pop it through to us at channel7@cableregina.com. Once again, that email is channel7@cableregina.com. Now, as promised, though, last week, Joey, you and I were talking about this. It's that time of year. A lot of people are getting into the period where it's time to start getting your car in shape. And that's why we've brought the expert along with us, Doug Kosier, once again, Ziebart 3M Trimline. You people really are sort of renowned as the experts for exterior maintenance.
Yeah, that's right. We've been in the business in Regina for about 10 years. Ziebart's been in the business for some 35 years, so we've been around a while.
There are so many different aspects involved. Joe, you and I, we've seen an awful lot of vehicles out there. People have still got the mud and the salt. Where do people start at getting their vehicle cleaned up?
Well, I guess they can do it themselves or they can take it to a professional. Those are kind of the two options you have today with people being so busy. We'd rather them come to us. But cleaning is important, and we think it's our business, so we enjoy doing it. So people take pride in a clean car.
A lot of people, like you say, they like to do it themselves. They have it out in the driveway, and
Right.
you know, they get the hose out and they do it that way.
Yep.
And that's nice, but you also want to get that extra protection. You want to get things like the undercoating and the exterior protection onto the car, so when you do that nice clean shine, it's going to last a little bit longer.
Yep, that's right. Various waxes that you can use. We can talk about that a little bit. I guess one of the big things with doing it in your driveway is not to use household products. That's the worst thing. They're grease cutting agents, and that's very harmful for the paint. So that's one of the things to avoid when you clean it in your own driveway.
I'm learning things already.
So palm olive's good for my hands, but not for my car.
But not for your,
Okay.
not for your car. That's very great.
We'll go with that then.
But your hands are always so silky soft.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. What about people who are doing it themselves? I mean, you were talking about the grease cutting agents that you'll find in, I'm assuming, things like palm olive or dishwasher detergent. Are there specific items that you can use from around the house?
They're all from around the house, not generally. Best to use a car wash designated material. You can get them in any automotive place in town. That's usually much better. It's pH neutral, so it doesn't hurt and harm the paint.
You want to use a nice chamois. You know, I pull out my little cloth that I put over my hand and I rub it and that. And there's the little electric buffers. Are those good to use at home?
Yeah, I guess the thing of the chamois is it's got to be clean. It can't be used once, put in the driveway or put in the garage, get out the next time. They've got to be clean at all times. The buffers are great, but you have to know what you're doing because you can harm the paint too if you get at too high speed and you can burn moldings. So you really got to watch how you do that as well.
Not to say I'm an idiot, but I'm an idiot. So this one time I waxed my car and I put wax all over the car and think, oh, I can get it off with the buffer. But by the time I got to the back, the wax was on there so much, and it just the paint looked bad for a long time.
Especially if you do it in the sun outside on a hot day, and that's when we mostly like to do those kind of things. So that's usually the worst thing to do because it will bake on there fairly quickly.
We're going through this so fast, we're going to have to touch on things again here as the evening progresses. But one of the things that I remember reading, this is years ago and I have not been able to see it anywhere else, was that you really shouldn't be using hot water on a vehicle. Is there any specific temperature that's best?
Well, certainly a warm to a mildly hot is better. It'll loosen up the dirt particles a lot quicker than cold. But cold is, I wouldn't go scalding hot, but most of us are using tap water out of the, that's fine. It takes a little longer to loosen up the dirt.
There's so many things. I wouldn't have thought that the dirty chamois, mind you, though I'm cheap and lazy at the same time. In my chamois, they do tend to get a little bit dirty. So maybe a wash or two, and then it's probably time. Can you wash a chamois?
You can, and I do at home. I would recommend one time, not a time or two. You should do it once and put it away because usually you're wiping off dirt and grime from it. Even though you've washed it, it's still good to clean them after every use.
What about the interior? You know, you make the outside look nice. You go to the interior, you've got a lot of the vinyl and some of the leather.
Right.
Of course, there's the well-known Armor Alls, and I like to use Spray 9 as well. I think it doesn't leave as much of a shine, but it really gets it nice and clean on the inside.
Yeah, again, the same rule of thumb. You want to try to avoid household designated products. There are lots of car wash specific things like leather conditioner, vinyl conditioner, Armor All you mentioned, that's a very popular name. So again, try to stick more to the car specific ones as opposed to the household things to do those things.
And I spill my coffee inside. What can I put on? What can I put on my seats beforehand? What can Ziebart put on my seats to keep when I spill my coffee from standing?
There are all sorts of fabric protection. Ziebart, we have our own solvent-based fabric protection that when you do make a spill, you can just sort of dab it up and it should come off fairly quickly. And once you wipe it off, it's not going to disappear. It actually, the best fabric protection goes right into the fabric rather than just sort of on the surface of it.
We've been talking a little bit about, we've been mentioning Ziebart periodically. An incentive for myself, like I say, I'm cheap and lazy. Those two generally don't go together because I'm as a general rule, I do find myself cheap, but probably once or twice a year it would be nice to have my vehicle professionally done. What are some extra things that a service like Ziebart would do that I couldn't do myself?
Well, first off, on the exterior, we would do a nice hand wash and a towel dry. Then typically what we use is various level of compounds to remove any fine scratches or oxidization. And then after that, we'll put in there's two types of waxes. One would be sort of a silicone, a softer wax. It's a seasonal wax to bring back a little of that shine. Or the other one is a polymer-based. It's a harder sealant that'll last about a year. It's a no-wax finish. So for those that are a little bit lazy, you want that no-wax finish. So in terms of the exterior, that's typically what you'll get at a professional. In the interior, most people won't do a full shampoo on the inside. Fabric, just like your carpets at home, they will get dirt as you're walking through, will get in there and ground in. So certainly a nice shampoo is something you don't typically get or will do at home, and that's good to do that once or twice a year. So I think those are the real important things.
My car gets pampered better than I do.
Yeah, exactly. Can I bring my car in and get the full detail as well with the Q-tips and?
Right, that's the other thing I failed to mention. When you do the inside, usually, we used to use Q-tips. We're using more compressed air now. It's just as easy to get in those vents that you don't get in all the nooks and crannies, and that's really important. Again, you're not going to do that at home, and let the professionals do that for you. So
drop it off in the morning, pick it up later in the day?
At the end of the day, you bet.
That's what we like to hear. Fat man, lazy man, way to do it. Here, clean my car.
You're pointing at me.
No, I wasn't. I was pointing in your general direction.
As I mentioned, we've brushed by so much of this in the first 10 minutes that we're going to have to go back and touch on things in a little bit more detail. But first, let's go down and take a look at some vehicles that have been detailed in immaculate condition. Just meticulously looked after or restored. It's Barry's Automotive Adventures, and you won't believe where he's joining us from. Here's Barry. Barry's Automotive Adventures right here on In Gear.
And welcome to another Barry's Automotive Adventures. This week, producer Randy Clark and I hit the trail. We jumped in the Channel 7 van and went to the country, arriving in Earl Grey, Saskatchewan, at the home of Rudy Marischler. Rudy, thanks a lot for having us out.
Thank you.
Now, the reason we're here is to introduce you to Rudy's museum, but before we talk about the museum and show you the absolutely phenomenal vehicles and other artifacts here, let's talk a little bit about Rudy and where you came from and when you arrived in Earl Grey.
I arrived in '54 by boat in Halifax, Canada, and landed in Earl Grey, and I worked for 4 years for an implement dealer. After 4 years, I went on my own and worked till '71 in a workshop.
Now, you started out on your own with a service station, BA.
BA.
You ran the whole gamut with these folks, didn't you?
Yes, yes.
It was BA.
BA, Golf, Petro-Canada, and then was retirement after that.
Now, Rudy, you became known as one of the best mechanics, one of the best service people anywhere in the province. And as you and I were talking earlier, you had the Cadillac of customers in this part of the province.
Yes. I had good customers. I was treated right till to the end. I can't complain about my customers.
Let's talk about your museum and when you first started with the automotives.
I started in 1963. My boy Frankie, he was the instigator on it. He liked old cars, antiques, and so we started out.
Was there one particular vehicle that you started out with?
No, actually it was a truck, a 1918 Model T truck. Was in very good shape, was not much to do except the roof, and that gave us our start.
And from there, you've gone on to many other.
To Chevys, Ford, Dodge, on and on.
Now, as a mechanic and one that likes to work on vehicles, do you have a favorite model? Do you have a favorite year?
Actually not, but here the Model T Ford Speedster was a good outcome. So this one I pretty well like the best, except my 1933 Cabriolet. That's an outstanding car too.
We're going to get a really good look at all the vehicles Rudy is talking about in just a couple of minutes. Rudy, I want to talk about the intricacy that is required in rebuilding some of these old vehicles. You just don't find the parts anymore. You hand make a lot of what we see here. Yeah,
we made them. We got new parts. And you got to have patience and, of course, money beside too. That's expensive. Expensive hobby.
Now, you have the museum here and in Earl Grey, and do you get a lot of visitors through?
Yes, I had lots coming through. Later on, where I was like retired, I'm not as often as home anymore. I'm most on the go, so we don't have that much visitors. But we get lots of visitors from all over the continent. We had as far from New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, States, Germany, England, from all over.
And they are absolutely amazed what they see here, aren't they?
Everyone was so far.
We're going to take a look around and enjoy your handiwork and all the other artifacts that you have in the museum, and we'll talk a little bit more later on.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Rudy, tell me about this. So this is 1928?
28 Ford two-door sedan.
Okay, now this is one that you have worked on long and hard. Tell us about some of the restoration involved here.
Actually, this car I didn't work all that much on. I purchased that one from a fellow from up north, but I did some work on it.
You've had it out in parades, I think, have you not?
Yes, I had it out in parades, and but you take it out in parade, it's pretty hard on a car. If it's a show car, you should leave it as a show car. Those stone chips on the fenders there, they don't show anymore.
Yeah. Moving down the line here, Rudy, this is a 1917.
1917 Speedster, Model T Ford.
Now, why did they call it a Speedster? It looks very sporty for the year.
It is just like they make now the hot rods. Those days they made Speedsters. It's not a production line car. It's like what they make now, the things, the hot rods, you know. Those days made the Speedsters.
Got a unique windshield in front of the steering wheel.
They call it Monaco windshield. Okay. That was just for the driver. The
passenger wore goggles?
Passenger wore goggles, that's right.
That's absolutely great. Now, you've done a lot of work on this one?
Yeah, I did it from ground up.
How long did that take you, Rudy?
It took me about 5 winters.
Wow. Wow.
Summer I was busy, so it was just wintertime work.
Put your hand on this one rather affectionately a little while ago. It's a what?
It's a 1930 Model A Ford Cabriolet.
Now
and it's a ground-up restoration too.
Now, why this one? You smile lots when you take a look at this one.
It's a nice car and it turned out good.
This type of vehicle in 1930, would it be a luxury car?
Yes, it's not too many around. I figure, I guess, if I can remember, 16,000 was made of.
Wow, that's not very many at all. No. Absolutely phenomenal. And again, done right from the ground up.
From the ground up.
Including the interior, Rudy? Would that be
yes.
done locally?
No, that's done. I bought a kit and I did myself all the upholstery work, what was necessary.
All right, we're going to shift down the line a little bit more down here. Backing up time again, 1927.
1927 Model T Ford.
Now this is the touring version.
Yes, it's a touring car. Most cars those days was touring cars.
What's the distinction of touring? More comfort and for long haul, or just the design of the vehicle?
I guess so. It must have been loved by the people, so they produced a lot.
So Rudy, when you're restoring a vehicle, you're looking around for parts. Do you get on the phone and start looking, or how do you find the parts that the vehicles that you're looking for to finish the job?
Yeah, you drive lots of miles around the country to find something. Sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you have to make some parts. Sometimes you get new ones.
I think what you said at the beginning was patience is a virtue when you're doing this.
Patience.
All right. And that's this week's edition of Barry's Automotive Adventures. Join us next week again in Earl Grey at Rudy's Museum. Rudy, here we go. Where's my goggles?
I don't know. I don't have no goggles. But
there's got to be goggles in here someplace.
In the driver's seat, you can have those Monaco windshield.
Rudy Marischler, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Did you know the word automobile comes from a 14th century painter named Martini? That's what he called his man-powered four-wheel cart. Auto is Greek for self, and mobile's Latin for moving. How a man-powered cart was self-moving, I'm not sure. This week on Auto World News, the military Humvee is getting some competition at the Pentagon. Both Ford and Daimler Chrysler are competing to supply the U.S. Army's next everyday workhorse. Modified versions of both the Ford F-350 and the Dodge Ram Quad Cab 2500 are soon to begin testing at the Army's Maryland Proving Grounds. The winner between the two will be awarded to a contract to supply 10,000 modified military trucks to the Pentagon each year for the next 4 to 5 years. It's a very lucrative contract. Currently, the Humvee costs the U.S. Treasury about $60,000 per vehicle, while the new trucks will have to be priced around $40,000 bucks. Hard to believe, the Humvee has now been in service for almost 20 years. Further to last week's story of the demise of the diesel Cummins engine in Dodge Ram pickups, Daimler Chrysler has announced this is not yet a done deal. Daimler Chrysler says it's still considering which engine should be in the Ram, the Cummins, which they have been using since the 80s, or the Mercedes diesel created at their own plants. We will keep our eye on this story over the next few months. And finally, with gas prices still inching up, have you made sure your car is running at peak efficiency? Here are a few tips which may save on your wallet and keep your car in good shape. First off, get a tune-up. And one of the biggest wastes of gas is an improperly tuned vehicle. Secondly, make sure your tires are in good shape and at the recommended tire pressure indicated in the owner's manual. Underinflation and, believe it or not, overinflation as well can both lead to excessive fuel usage. Avoid extended idling. It's more fuel efficient and easier on your car to warm it up in the morning by just driving slowly than letting it sit in the driveway for 15 minutes. And finally, we've all heard this before, but avoid jackrabbit starts. I know they're fun, but they use up an awful lot of fuel. Smooth, steady acceleration, not quite as thrilling, but certainly much more fuel efficient. So there you go. That's Auto World News for tonight. And here we are back once again with our guest, Doug Kozier from Ziebart 3M Trimline, and as we know, Joe Hattersbeck, joining us regularly on In Gear. Joe, it's great to have you as a part of the show, and you've got a lot of questions. You've been really sort of pumping Doug for information here.
Well, I have a really bad, old, ugly 1988 Plymouth Voyager van, so I got to find a way to clean it up a little bit. One thing quick, though, Dale Earnhardt finally wins a race, and you don't mention it on Auto World News. Not finally wins a race, but he did.
I know he did.
And that was a good thing. It was a good race for once. Atlanta was a good race.
Jarrett didn't win.
Exactly.
It's not on Auto World News.
Oh, I see.
I'm showing my bias.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, see, and I had to get my Dale Earnhardt shot in there, so.
Okay.
Looking forward to Darlington on the weekend, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's talk about cleaning cars again.
Let's talk about cleaning cars, because we brushed over an awful lot of topics on the opening segment of In Gear tonight. We've got to get into a little bit more detail, I think.
We had talked a little bit about undercoating. You got to keep it clean, but you've got to make sure that the car is going to last you for a long time. That's something that you guys do, and it just helps the car for a number of years.
No question, we usually talk about cleaning, but the overall protection game is one that's overlooked for the most part. Rust protection in the body cavities, but the undercoat is important. In our roads, we have a lot of gravel, we have a lot of road abrasion. The material that we use is a petroleum-based, and it's actually about 3 times the thick of normal undercoat, so it acts more than just protection from road abrasion, but helps it to make a quieter ride as well, which again, in our climate and roads, that's a good thing to have.
You had mentioned in the body cavities. I remember seeing a commercial a number of years ago where they're putting a rod of some sort right into the door panels. You get down in the bottom. That's got to be one of the places. You don't see it as much anymore, but before you could always see the bottom of the door flapping around as it was driving down the street. There
are still some high-prone areas that will rust. I mean, rust needs oxygen. There's still steel. You know, that process is sped up by salt and water, which we have in our environment. So it's still important, I think, to get that chemical in the seams. There are special tools that typically you have to use so you can get in all those nooks and crannies and get that material, protect those seams, and that's good. People don't think cars rust anymore, but they still do. I mean, Ziebart does research every year. And 90 cars, you know, 1990 cars or late model cars, they will still rust after a few years. So,
is there any sort of guarantee? Let's say I go out and I buy a new vehicle. Of course, there's the rust protection guarantee on the new vehicle warranty itself. Yep. If I go for extended rust protection through someone like yourself, yep, is there any guarantee there?
There is. On brand new vehicles, the rust warranty provided from the manufacturers is a little bit limited. With a new vehicle with Ziebart, It's a lifetime warranty for as long as you own the car, and it's a replacement. It's a repair, a full repair warranty. So if rust damage does start to show, it's repaired. And the way to avoid that is you can't just apply it once. You have to bring it back for an annual inspection so that it can be looked at and make sure that rust isn't starting.
Folks, if you'd like to give us a call, phone number's up on the screen right now. If you've got some questions for Doug about the interior, the exterior, 565-5376 is our number if you've got some questions.
By all means, as a matter of fact, I know we've got somebody on line number 1 right now. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, not bad. I have a question for Doug.
Fire away.
I used to have tinting on the rear windows of my car, which over the years, of course, it all dried up and whatnot and has fallen off. But the glue is still on the inside of the back window, and I wonder do you know how to take that off?
Yeah, the only way you can really take it off, tint is a product put on the inside, and it's put on with an adhesive product. The only way to really get it off is with a razor blade and ammonia. Soak the window down a little bit, take a nice straight razor blade and start to scrape it off and wipe it off, and that's the only way to get old tint off.
Okay, that's not going to hurt the rear window defogger?
That's where you have to be careful. On a rear window, that's the risk. Obviously, if you use a blade, you have to be extremely cautious because you don't want to nip that rear defroster, because it is possible to do that.
You guys do that kind of work?
We sure do.
So you're thinking maybe bring it down and get it done instead?
Yeah, then it's not my problem.
Okay.
That's probably a good idea. Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you so much.
All right. You know, we were just talking about the razor blade there. Everybody's had stickers or decals on your window. I'm guessing you have to be very, very careful with the way that you use the razor blade because the edges could score the glass.
Right, they will. And we will use heat more than a razor blade to get a decal off a glass because there's going to be less damage to the glass. The razor blade obviously has to be kept very flat so it doesn't gouge it. So.
When we changed some of the sponsors on our stock car, we had to pull the vinyl off and it left a little bit. And there was an adhesive remover that we bought as well, and it was a 3M product that we got from you guys. So if there happens to be a little bit there, people can come down and get that product as well.
Yeah, we actually don't sell the products too much anymore. We really try to do it ourselves, let the professionals do it. So we're not necessarily an aftermarket to buy the products that you can clean your car. Again, we'd rather have them come down. So.
A little better to have the professionals do it. That way it's done right.
Right.
Are there any specific products that, I don't want to get you in trouble endorsing one product or another, but are there any specific products that myself as somebody, I've taken my vehicle to Ziebart, you've done the initial spring cleanup for me, I want to keep it maintained and looking nice and shiny throughout the summer. Is there a specific type of product I should be using, or is there something I should be looking for?
Well, again, you're not going to, if you bring it to us, say, once or twice a year, you are going to have to wash it. You do want to keep it clean. The products that you really, as we mentioned before, if you're doing it in a driveway, you have to use a car-specific product to get it nice and clean.
Are there certain types of car washes that you can buy in an auto supply store that are harmful, or are they all pretty good?
No, typically if you go to, not promoting anyone, if you go to Canadian Tire, they're going to have a rack full of car wash products and car wash specific chemicals, so usually you're going to be fine with something from there. If you go to the car washes, you know, sometimes you go to Touchless or the brush car washes or the hand wash. The one thing I think it's important to avoid at the hand wash is, and I've done this myself, but you know, the foam brushes that you use when you want to do it by hand, usually those are real traps for dirt and particles that the previous guy just had a load of dirt on there and a load of mud. He washed his truck off, and you're coming in there with your car trying to give it a little touch up. You want to try to avoid those kind of brushes. So car washers are fine. You just have to watch again what you're using with it.
I actually got caught in that myself. I was at a Udo Bay, and I've never used the brushes on the paint surface, but I always used to use them on the glass surface. I figured the paint, that would score it pretty easy. But I obviously had a brush somebody had just been 4x4ing, I guess. There must have been lots of gravel in the brush. I did my front windshield, and I got scratches in the windshield from the brush alone.
Yep, that's right. And that's the one sort of drawback of a car wash.
So I don't take my time and there's a bunch of rocks in the brush and I scratch my paint. I was out looking at the website today a little bit, theziebart.com, and I noticed that you guys have a product or a service that's called Paint Chip Fix.
Yeah, Paint Chip is a service you can do for smaller ones. A little hard for scratches. Paint chip repair typically will just coat the surface with a chip. When you get a scratch, it's a little harder to do that. It's not going to look as nice. It's not a paint job or a sand job, so it doesn't look as nice for scratches as it will for an actual stone chip, say on the front of your fender. So.
Yeah, maybe for the smaller ones
For
that
the
you get on
smaller
the
ones.
nose. And
Yeah,
that.
that's right. When you get a scratch, so if you've taken it in and scratched it with something, you have to use various level of compounds to try to get that out. And the rule of thumb, if the scratch, you can feel that scratch with your fingernail, chances are it's already damaged the paint, it's gone through the clear coat, and a polish isn't going to get it out. Your only option is probably sand and paint at that stage of the game.
We've been talking a little bit about car washes. I want to ask you about touchless versus the brush washes, the rotating brush washes. Before we get to that, though, we also have test drive, and we've got somebody waiting for us, I believe, on line number 1. Let's go and check and see if somebody's there. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm just fine, thank you. You got a question for Doug?
Yeah.
Fire away for us.
Okay. How do you start a boat in racing?
Oh, you're asking Joe a question about racing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Doug,
Like at Kings Park.
Unless you know,
You're the
okay.
racing.
Okay, well, we can touch on that a little bit quickly. We had talked about a couple of different classes before. I think one of the main ones to get into when you're starting out in racing is possibly the mini stock class. But you could do it like we did, buy a cast car and go from there. But the mini stocks, it's an affordable way to get in. I know there's even maybe a couple out there for sale, including, I think Ashley's is still for sale, which was the top 3 car last year. That's one way of getting in. Or you can go and talk to some of the guys in the mini stock division and get them to show you how to build a car. Basically, smaller cars, smaller engines, and it's a great affordable way to get into racing and a lot of fun as well. My friends, Quentin and Cal, were in the mini stock class. My girlfriend and Quentin's wife are going to be driving in the mini stock class, and they're going to be having a lot of fun this year, and it's a great way to get in. So you can give myself a call at 791-1300 if you like, and I can give you some phone numbers and contact some people. And as well, Kings Park Speedway, you can look for them on the web at kingsparkspeedway.com, or you can call them as well. They're in the phone book.
All right, hopefully that'll answer your question. You can sort of start following it up on your own now.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot.
a lot.
Now we're going to get back, we're going to talk about the car washes and the rotating brushes versus the touchless, but right now, let's take a vehicle out for a test drive that doesn't need a car wash, at least not yet. It might after somebody buys it and has it out on the road for a month or two, but right now it looks beautiful. We're talking about a new Chevrolet Venture. We're continuing our look at minivans. It's Test Drive, and it's right here on In Gear.
Here we go again, gathering up the family and venturing to the country. And surprise, surprise, once again this week we're doing it in a minivan. The Chevy Venture van to be exact, and we found out why so many people are venturing out to buy one. This isn't the top-of-the-line vehicle in its class, it's certainly a classy vehicle. What it is a straight-ahead, you know what you're getting mini with comfort and amenities for all. And it's all GM through and through, from the distinctive grille pattern to the switches on the dash. Plus, as is typical for the General, you can create your Venture in many different configurations. Chevrolet claims, for example, 32 different seating setups alone. Of course, flexibility like that isn't limited to Chevy, but it is one of the features consumers like you and I have come to expect. Some things can't be changed. For example, as with most minivans these days, the 2000 Chevy Venture is a V6-powered front-wheel drive, with the engine turning out a respectable 185 horse. For most of us, it's more inside than under the hood that inspires us to buy. In this case, it's truly the inside we found inspiring. Everyone on our test crew thought the interior was well-crafted, comfortable, and functional. The cockpit area felt like all controls, short of the cruise control, were where they should be. No surprises. Much of our appreciation for the cockpit came from the center stack. The radio, while a bit busy, sounded great once you figure out what all the buttons do, was simple to operate. Large, easy to use even with gloves on environmental controls were typical Chevy, as was the fan control for rear seat passengers. How about this switch plate? Only took a quick glance down to see which switch you needed. And this I liked, a power point that was not hard to find. So often they're buried down at the bottom of the dash. Finally, down below the stack, a relatively large compartment for toys, cells, or with this insert, CDs and cassettes. If I have a beef, though, it's this. Chevy has already moved many cruise controls to the steering wheel in other vehicles. and it's time to do the same thing here. You'll have a hard time forgetting to close a door with this message center. It monitors doors, but it also does much more, tracking your oil life and performing other handy functions. Up top, it's a fairly standard center console with a garage door control pocket, a glasses pocket, map lights, and yet another switch plate for, well, for just about everything. Plenty of switches in this venture for the whole family to play with. Like the Pontiac Montana we tested about a month ago, our venture had the driver's information center providing info on outside temp, heading, fuel usage, range, and more. It'll even tell you your average speed for a trip. Why? Well, why not? Finally, up front, let's look between the seats. Here's those cup holders mounted on the side of the passenger seat, as well as a cargo net to keep a frequently used map or other item handy. And up next, let's open the door on the second row. Chevrolet has gently sloped the floorboards to create a theater-type seating atmosphere, slightly elevating the rear passengers so they can see over the driver's head easier. And like in the front, it's side-mounted cup holders for little Randy and little Lisa to keep their juice. But I know, now you're saying, Garth, how does the venture stack up out back? Well, to answer that question, let's open it up and find out together. Individual rear seats, rather than a full-width bench, provide plenty of flexibility for creating space out back without losing all of your seating. Flipping the backs or the whole seat forward is simple, but to actually remove the seat, all you have to do is grab a hold of these two bars right here on the seat bottom. Grab the bars, squeeze, and pull. I did find the process of removing the seats a bit awkward, but as the seats only weigh in at 17K or 38 pounds, with a bit of practice, this should be a snap. Our test venture was a midline model. It came well appointed, but I'm sure we've all seen the ads for the Warner Brothers edition. This top-line model adds all the luxuries, including VCR, audio and gaming connections, leather and cloth seats, and even a remote for the video. If you and your family spend a lot of time on the highway, you may very well find this luxury worth the extra money. As for towing that boat to the lake this summer, you shouldn't have too much problem. The Venture is rated for towing up to 3,500 pounds. The engine is a 3.4 liter and it pumps out 185 horse, more than adequate for everyday use around town or even on the highway. And I like this. The engineers at Chevy placed the battery in a difficult spot, but should you need a boost, the designers created this positive power connection point. It probably won't help you decide whether or not to buy a Venture, but it's attention to detail like this that may really help. Finally, a quick look at safety. Driver and front passenger airbags are standard equipment on the Venture, but now add in standard seat-mounted side impact airbags, second and third row child seat tether anchors, and four-wheel anti-lock brakes. Priced around $24,800 for a base model, the Venture seems right in line with its competition. This week, let me say thank you to Jason Lettingham, Les Kuntz, and all our friends at Regina Motor Products for use of the 2000 Chevrolet Venture.
Did you know the first vehicle that could start without a hand crank was a 1912 Cadillac? Henry Leland actually invented the self-starter after his friend was killed by a hand cranked kickback. Good thing they've got the electric starters now.
Now there's now there's remote starters. You don't even have to be anywhere close
to it.
Yeah.
Just no kickback to worry about now.
Stay way away.
Before we got into that last question and into test drive, we were asking a question about the touchless versus the rotating brush type car washes. Does one do a better job? Is one harmful?
Yeah, I think they'll both do a job, but obviously from us, we're a little bit biased. We would probably say the touchless by far is better because you don't have any brushes or grit from the previous wash going through that may harm the vehicle. So to us, a touchless would be better. I'm sure all the new car washes, they're all been upgraded. They've changed their systems a number of times, so they're probably trying to get as much fresh water and clean product going through. But to me, there's always a little bit of a risk of something getting embedded into the brushes they used before it gets onto your vehicle.
So I take my car through the car wash. It comes out, it looks not too bad, but along the rocker panel, there's still this ugly little tar specks, and along the front, there's still some bugs. How can I deal with that properly?
Well, tar is not too difficult. It's a solvent-based material, so normally Varsol is a great product to use for that.
And that won't harm the paint?
It won't harm the paint if you don't leave it on for long. I think if you leave it on, it can cause you trouble. And usually with that, just soak a good rag with Varsol and work in a very small area. You know, damp it on. Maybe leave it sit for a few, 15, 20 seconds, and then try to slowly wipe it off. The cautious thing again with tar is if there's a fair amount of it and you start to wipe, it gets very abrasive. So the cloth you've used to try to put it on, and now you start to wipe and clean, those abrasions get in there very quick, so you're going to risk the scratching as well. So
a lot of things that you wouldn't think of. Normally you just put on the Varsol or bug and tar remover or whatever, and go to wipe it off.
In terms of bugs and bird droppings are common things. Most people don't realize that they're very harmful to the paint. So the longer you leave them on, they very quickly will with the hot sun or the warm sun, will burn in through the clear coat of the paint and cause damage that can't be gotten out with a polish. So get that off just with, again, a clean cloth and water. Scrub that off as quickly as you can, and don't let it sit there for a month or two at a time, because it will start to damage the paint.
So if you park under a tree, you might want to set up an account at one of those spray washes as well.
That's right.
When you go through, there's usually your cheap and quick, let's go through and just clean off the dust, and then there's a couple of different ones when you go through the touchless, let's say. And you can get the one with the wax. Do you want to do that every time? You probably don't want to build up that many times.
Yeah, I think you would subject the vehicle to build up, and I think you would want to try to avoid that. Again, I'm not sure the types of waxes they're using. It's probably a softer silicone-based wax, which will probably last 3 to 4 months under normal conditions. So I wouldn't use it on every occasion.
So you don't want to get your car beat up. I think there's something else that got beat up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Barry Davies, he got a little shaken up. He was out at Stampede Wrestling about a week and a half ago. Let's see if we can get this running here and see what happened to Barry Davies. It was an automotive adventure of a different sort.
He's actually got a nice shine to his forehead.
He must have been into Z-Bart.
I think so. Oh, this doesn't look good. What's going to happen here?
He looks like a pretty tiny little guy.
He is.
And then there's Barry. Barry was a guest referee, I believe it was, at Stampede Wrestling about a week and a half ago. And as you can see, he's getting right into the part.
It can't be good when they start bringing the chairs out, though.
This is Trevor Scott that is pushing Barry into the corners. Now, I know Trevor, he's a big guy.
On In Gear, Thursdays, 9 p.m., right after Stampede.
Will I be required to do anything like that?
Will be coming after you.
As a matter of fact. This guy.
Going for lunch. Going for lunch.
He's going to be your best friend, Joe.
That's an interesting automotive adventure right there.
Indeed. And Barry, we appreciate you putting your body through everything you put it through that night for us here at In Gear. Now, once again, the phone number is 565-5376 if you have any questions for Doug about getting your car up and running. Doug, let's talk a little bit about some of the services that you might offer people when they first are maybe looking at this time of year. The weather's getting a little bit better, although we're supposed to get some snow tonight. The weather is getting a little better. A lot of people have some very dirty vehicles. There's salt buildup, there's dirt, there's grime. They bring it into you. What sort of services can you offer them?
Well, the full range from inside, outside. One of the things that people do forget a lot of times in the spring, and that's when the salt can do the most harm because of the winter that it's had, is underneath the vehicle. Cover your bottom. We like to make sure we get a good clean. We'll put it up on the hoist, wash it all off underneath the underside of the engine, which probably doesn't see a lot of water in terms of cleaning products. So that's one that probably gets overlooked a fair amount in the springtime. And again, we think it's a good service for people. So.
You also talked about shampooing the carpets. I know after winter you get all the little rocks and the gravel built up in your shoes. You drop that on your carpet. That's hard to get out.
It is very hard to get out, and again, those are the kind of results that you can't get out or can't do at home, and that's why it's important to go to a professional where you get a good good hot commercial extraction, good vibration to loosen up those fibers, good material to bring a lot of that dirt to the surface so that you can get it out with a good extraction. So that's the kind of stuff, again, people don't want to take that time to do it on the weekend. So that's why I think it's important for the professionals.
What's nice though is you do that and you almost get that new car smell back, and we all know how we love the new car smell. So
the new car smell, I love it.
It comes back a little bit, so that's a good thing to do. Garth, I think we have a couple more calls.
We do have a few calls. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Not bad. And you?
Just fine, thank you. Do you have a question for Doug?
Yes, I got a question for Doug. I'm thinking about doing a frame off on a 66 Dodge half ton, and I'm thinking about using that brush-on undercoating. Is that stuff good or not really?
I'm not all that familiar with the brush-on undercoating you're talking about. I guess it really depends on what kind of use and what kind of protection you're actually looking for. I don't know the actual material, so it's kind of hard to comment. I haven't seen it, nor have I used it myself. So chances are, if it's just brush on, do it yourself, it's going to be a fairly thin material and may not give you the protection that you're actually looking for. So.
Okay, and I was thinking about maybe painting the frame in a marine paint. Mm-hmm. Would that help at all or not?
Well, again, I'm not all that familiar on the paint side of the equation, but marine paint I know is very durable. I've actually used it myself for some yard decorations that are out in the wintertime. So it's that may be a question better for a body expert as opposed to myself. But.
Okay.
Well, hopefully you've got a couple of ideas. Maybe even, are you restoring a vehicle then?
Yes, I am.
You might want to give our friends over at Majestic's Car Club a call and ask them what direction you might want to turn.
Okay.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
We've got a few more calls here, so let's just get right to them. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi.
How you doing?
Not too bad. I got a question for Doug.
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on buying a brand new vehicle, and I was looking at this sound deadening spray that Z-Bart offers.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if it's possible to not only put that underneath the car, but if it's possible to put, say, underneath the hood of your car or inside the doors to further reduce road noise and engine noise inside your vehicle.
It's not a material that I would recommend for that. Because from an appearance perspective, it goes on underneath to protect for road abrasion and quieter. It's black, it at times may drip or chip, so I don't know if I'd want to put it on any kind of an exterior surface for quieting. I think most of the new cars are pretty good when it comes to noise in the body panels and
stuff.
stuff.
There's a lot more sound dampening going into them.
Correct. And again, I think with our roads, it's probably more comes from underneath as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, I know a lot of these guys buy new cars and they'll put these sound deadening pads you can buy from the car audio shops.
Mm-hmm.
They'll put them inside their doors,
mm-hmm.
underneath the door panels.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it's pretty expensive, and I was just wondering if Z-Bart would.
That's something we haven't done, again, because normally when we try to do protection or door panels, we look more at rust material as opposed to sound deadening material. So I actually haven't heard of that product. So.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely go for the undercoating, though. I know it's great for rust, and it does at least some for sound quality living inside the vehicle. So.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thanks for your call. And before we get to this next call, I just want to ask our control room if we have enough time to get in our segment of Racer's Edge, because we do want to continue on with our construction of a cash car sportsman racer. Let's check it out right now. It's our good buddy Paul Eitenayer. He's building that cash car race car for us on the Racer's Edge right here on In Gear.
Hi, my name's Paul Eitenayer. Welcome to Racer's Edge. Yes, today, as we promised, we're going to be starting construction of the roll cage. From the roll cage, I'm also going to be showing you some of the tools that I used to construct this. The tools consist of a cutoff saw, pipe bender, and a tubing notcher, which is situated on the drill press. Now, going over to the main cage, which I've pre-constructed here for you today, we're going to be starting out with the main hoop. This main hoop is 41 inches off the frame. The main hoop here consists of two different bends. The first bend, which consists of a 76-degree bend, and the second bend, which consists of a 16-degree bend, which gives us a total of 90. Now, going from the main hoop, we're going to go back up to the upper halo bar, which is situated over top the driver. This bar consists of two 90-degree bends and roughly has a distance of about 32 inches from the front to the main bar. Then from the upper halo bar, we're going to be going into the A-pillar bar. This bar comes down to the front and has roughly a 45-degree bend, and the bend starts about 22 inches off of the frame. And from here, these two bars is where we are going to be fabricating our door bars for the car. First thing we're going to do is fabricate the gas tank hoop. The gas tank hoop consists of two pieces, one 60 inches long, the other 6 1/4 inches long. We'll mark them out for you and cut them. What we have here is the 60-inch long piece. We found center 30 inches in, and we're going to go down 9 1/4 inches, and this is where we're going to start our first bend on a 90-degree. Now what we're doing here, the pipe bender consists of two parts of the shoe. We have the shoe here which will give us our various angles, and the pipe will fit exactly inside the shoe. And what we have here, this will hold the shoe together as we start putting pressure onto the pipe bending unit. Pressure is put onto the unit by the hydraulic ram here, which is just a manual ram, and just by pumping it back and forth, we'll put pressure and we'll start our bend. Once we've got close to our 90-degree bend, we're going to take a few seconds, place a square along the shoe here, just to see how close we are to our 90. And as you notice, we're a little past the 90-degree, and this allows a little bit of spring back in the pipe as we loosen off the pipe bender here. And as you can see, there we go. Looks pretty close to me. Once we finish bending both 90-degree angles in the gas tank hoop, we're going to be cutting it to length and then going to be putting in a center bar which we'll be notching out over on the drill press. What we'll be doing now is cutting off the excess from the gas tank hoop here. We need 6 3/4 inches from the bottom part of the hoop to the top part, which will be welded on the bottom part of the frame. Next, once the fuel cell hoop is pre-cut to length, we're going to be adding in the center piece here. And all we have to do here is notch out the center piece on the drill press. We've gone ahead and pre-welded the center bar onto the hoop. Now we'll position it underneath the frame. Next time, we're going to be finishing off the rest of the roll cage for the cast car. I'm Paul Eitmeyer, and thank you for tuning in to Racer's Edge.
Thank you very much, Paul. Looking forward to seeing that car out on the track this year. I know Joe is as well.
I am. Hopefully I see it behind me a little bit. It'll probably be in front of me a little bit though too, I would imagine.
It's very interesting. I tell you, I'm learning an awful lot watching Paul on the Racer's Edge. We've got somebody who's been very patient. They've been hanging on the line right through the Racer's Edge. Let's go to line 3. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
The other day, I overheated my car.
Uh-oh.
And today when I tried starting it, antifreeze was spitting out the exhaust.
That's not a good thing to get on paint.
And I was told that is a head gasket, but I was wondering if it's worth repairing.
Oh boy, you're going to have to talk to a mechanic about that one. That's more than I would know. Joe, any ideas?
Yeah, it sounds like, but your best bet's going to be to take that in somewhere and get them to take a look at it. So I would suggest doing that.
Okay.
I know I had head gasket problems about 2.5, 3 months ago. If it is a head gasket, make sure your wallet's feeling a little on the thick side. Okay? Thank you very much for the call. We've got another call. We want to say thank you very much for our next caller. We're not going to have time to get to you because we do want to take an opportunity to invite you back. We haven't had an opportunity to touch on the trim line side of Ziebart 3M trim line. Will you be willing to come back in a couple weeks' time?
Sure, no problem.
Joe, we've touched on some of the cleaning aspects. I'm going to take my car down to Ziebart and get it cleaned up get it ready for spring. I think you're probably thinking the same thing.
Can you make a 1988 Plymouth Voyager look good?
Well, we'll give it our best.
Okay, that's all I ask. That's all I ask for. Really appreciate you coming down tonight. It's been helpful. A lot of the people gave them some good ideas on what to do and how to take care of their car. I know we've said it a few times, but don't just wash it. You've got to take care of it, the undercoating, the rust proofing, and all the little things that we've talked about.
Yep, regular cleaning, protection services, that's all important.
All right. Thank you so very much. Boston Pizza, we are on our way, 4657 Ray Street. Doug, you going to come and join us?
We'll see.
All right.
I've been away from home waiting for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week on In Gear.
In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza. Come and get it all. The Regina Automobile Dealers Association. And Kings Park Speedway. We're kicking asphalt.
Cars you're going to love In Gear.
Thursday nights at 9.